Hello students, I welcome you all to my channel for the English session Chapter 4 Skills of Communicative English. At the outset, I request you to like, share and subscribe. When a child attains the age of 5 years, he is admitted in a school and continues to study for 10 years. During this period, he gets the chance to prove his ability and potentiality. He makes friends and wins the affection and confidence of his teachers. School life is the best period of a student's life. The frolics, pranks remain evergreen in our memory. During solitude, when we think of our school days, our teachers, and friends, everything appears in a flashback. From a school, a student forms his career and aims at some profession. The school is the source of inspiration and encouragement. We all know Mahatma Gandhi, the father of the nation. He was a man of truth, strong character, and a lover of nonviolence. He spent most of his time at Sabarmati ashram and was also known as the Saint of Sabarmati. Mohandas was born on 2nd October 1869 in a Baniya family at Porbandar. His family was residing in Porbandar. His father was Karamchand Gandhi and mother Putlibai. At the age of 13 years, he was married to Kasturba Makhanji Kapadia. He had four sons, Hiralal, Devdas, Manilal and Ramdas. At the age of 9 years, he joined the Rajkot English Medium School. At the age of 18 years, he matriculated from this school. After independence, the school was renamed as Mohandas Gandhi High School. On 30th January 1948, he was shot dead by Nathuram Godse. The present chapter at the high school is taken from his autobiography, My Experiments with Truth, which narrates about the activities during his school days. Now, what is an autobiography and biography? An account of a person's life written by the same person is known as autobiography. An account of a person's life written by another person is known as biography. Now, coming to the text, I'll read a paragraph and explain you line by line. Now, let's come to the text. At the high school. Now, we have heard that when he was 18 years of old, he was studying in Rajkot High School. After independence, this school was renamed as Mohandas Gandhi High School. During his school career, he was not a brilliant student, but he was good at English, fair in mathematics, and weak in geography. But he had a very good conduct. His only drawback was that he didn't have a good handwriting. Now let's read the following text to know some more interesting facts about his school days. I was not regarded as a fool at the high school. I always enjoyed the affection of my teachers. Means that he was not a dullard. He was liked by all the teachers who taught him because for some of his characters, that was He was a truthful boy. So he had a good character also. At the end of the session, academic session, certificates of progress used to be sent to the parents. How the boy or how the students were progressing in their classes. He never had a bad certificate throughout his school career. But when he won prizes after passing out from class 2, and he also obtained scholarships in class 5 and 6. For this, he never praised his merit. He always thanked his good luck. My own recollection is that I did not have any high regards for my ability. So Gandhi never considered himself to be a very meritorious student. Whenever he won scholarships, he used to thank his good luck. He used to thank his fate. He used to be astonished whenever he won prizes and scholarships. So, whenever he won scholarships and prizes, he was surprised. But actually, he won for his merit. But I very jealously guarded my character. Jealously, he very cautiously, very carefully, he guarded his character. He never had a stain on his character during his studies. The least little blemish drew tears from my eyes when I merited or seemed to the teacher to merit a rebuke. It was unbearable for me. So, whenever he committed any mistake, the teachers used to scold him, and that was unbearable for him. As he used to weep, and tears used to roll down his cheeks. I remember having once received a corporal punishment. Corporal punishment means caning. In those days, the students used to be caned if they did any mistake. So once he received a corporal punishment because it was his own fault. Because of his own fault, he was given a corporal punishment. What was the result? He wept piteously. He cried bitterly. That was when I was in the first or second standard. This incident took place when he was in first or second standard. Now, in those days, English medium schools they used to have standards, not classes. So, standard means class. There was another incident during the time when I was in seventh standard. Another incident took place when Gandhiji was in seventh standard. During those days, Dorabji Edulji Gimi was the headmaster of the school. Now, he was very popular among the students because he was a good disciplinarian, a man of method, and a good teacher. He had made gymnastics and cricket compulsory for the boys of upper standard. So, those students who were studying in higher classes, for them, cricket and gymnastics compulsory means they have to take part in these events. I disliked both, but Gandhiji he disliked both. He did not like these gymnastics nor cricket. So he never took part in any exercise or football or cricket before they were made compulsory. So before Dorabji Edulji made these gymnastics and cricket compulsory, Gandhiji never took part in these events. Why? Because he was shy by nature, and this shyness kept him aloof from others. But now he realizes that it was totally wrong. When I had then the false notion that gymnastics had nothing to do with education. So then he had an idea that gymnastics had nothing to do with education. Means gymnastics had nothing, no relation with education. But today he is realizing that physical training is very, very essential and it should be included in curriculum along with mental training. The reason for my dislike was my keen desire to serve as nurse to my father. So why did he avoid cricket and gymnastics? The main cause was that he was very much interested to serve his father as a nurse. He wanted to serve his father. So he disliked these two events. As soon as the school closed, I would hurry home and begin serving him. As soon as the school bell rang, the final bell rang, he used to run home and start serving his father. Now, compulsory exercise came directly in the way of his service. Now, this when games was made compulsory, cricket and gymnastics were made compulsory, it proved an obstacle for Gandhiji because he could not serve his father, he could not nurse his father. I requested Mr. Gimme to exempt me from gymnastics so that I might be free to serve my father. Finally, he went to Mr. Gimme, requested him to exempt him from gymnastics and cricket so that he could go home and serve his father. But he would not listen. But Mr. Gimme turned deaf ears. He did not listen to his request. Now it happened that one Saturday when we had school in the morning, I had to come from home to school for gymnastics at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So one Saturday, they had school in the morning and the gymnastic classes were held in the evening, afternoons. But that day was cloudy and Gandhi had no watch. So the clouds deceived him. He could not make out the time. When he reached the school, the boys had left. When he couldn't attend the class on Saturday, he was marked absent in the roll call. The next day, when Mr. Gimme examined the roll call, he found that Gandhi was marked absent. When he asked the reason for his absence, Gandhi told what had happened. Now, what happened? He told that he had no watch, it was cloudy, he could not make out the time, so he was late. But Mr. Gimme refused to believe and ordered me to pay a fine of 1 anna or two. But instead, Mr. Gimme, instead of understanding the fact, he fined him an anna or two. Now, anna is the old currency that was used in India. So, what happened? Now, Gandhi was convicted of lying. He was found guilty because he was telling a lie, but actually he was not. That deeply pained me. So, we know that Gandhi was truthful. When he was penalized, it deeply pained him. How was I to prove my innocence? So, Gandhi made up his mind that he would prove that he was innocent. But there was no way. Means he failed. He couldn't prove himself that he was innocent. He cried in deep anguish. He cried pitifully. And that was mental suffering. I saw that a man of truth must also be a man of care. So if you're truthful, you should be careful. This was the first and the last incident of my carelessness in school. So Gandhi says that this was his first and last instance of his carelessness that he had committed in school. I had a faint recollection that I finally succeeded in getting the fine remitted. Faint recollection, he had a dim recollection that his fine was excused. The exemption, how was he exempted? His father wrote a letter to Mr. Dorabji saying that he wanted him after the school. On this condition, his fine was excused. But though I was none the worse for having neglected exercise, I am still paying the penalty of another neglect. So he had neglected the exercises during his school career, but now he is repenting for another neglect. I do not know whence I got the notion that good handwriting was not necessary part of education. So the next thing which he was repenting was bad handwriting. He had an idea that good handwriting has nothing to do with education. But and he retained this idea. He had this idea until he went to England for higher studies. But later when he went to South Africa, he saw that the young mass they were writing beautiful handwriting. The lawyers and young people who were born and educated in South Africa, they were writing beautiful handwriting. So he felt ashamed of himself and repented of his mind neglect. And he repented that he had neglected his handwriting. So he had told that a good handwriting is the sign of perfect education and bad handwriting is the sign of imperfect education. I saw that bad handwriting should be regarded as a sign of an imperfect education. So he said it should be regarded that a person who writes a bad handwriting, his education is not complete. I tried later to improve mine, but it was too late. Later he tried his best to improve his handwriting, but it was too late. I could never repair the neglect of my youth. Repair means correct. He could not correct the things which he had neglected in his young days. Let every man and woman be warned by my example and understand that good handwriting is a necessary part of education. So, what is doing there? He is warning by his examples, the examples which he has given. He says that every man, every woman should understand that a good handwriting is a very essential part of education. I am now of the opinion that children should first be taught the art of drawing before learning to write. So he says, in his opinion, a child when he joins a school, first he should be taught drawing. Drawing in the sense freehand drawing, stick figures. These are the drawings which helps the child to develop his handwriting. Let the child learn his letters by observation as he does different objects such as flowers, birds, etc. So a child learns his letters. He should be taught to learn his letters by showing different kind of objects. Pictorial books. These are very helpful for children. And let him learn handwriting only after he has learned to draw objects. So after a child learns to draw objects, he should be taught how to write a good hand. This is the method that is adopted in school. First, a child should be taught how to draw. By drawing, a child's hand becomes perfect. After that, he can write very well. He will then write a beautiful formed hand. Only after he has learned how to draw, he can write a beautiful handwriting. Now, Sanskrit, however, proved a harder task. Now, Sanskrit is practically a very difficult language because a student has to memorize each and everything, and that was, however, very difficult for Gandhiji. In geometry, there was nothing to memorize, whereas in Sanskrit, I thought everything had to be learned by heart. But Gandhi says in geometry, there was nothing to memorize, there was nothing to learn by heart. But in Sanskrit, everything has to be memorized, which was quite difficult for him. This subject was also commenced from 4th standard. Now, this Sanskrit language started from class 4. As soon as I entered 6, I became disheartened. So, when he entered class 6, he was disheartened. He lost his hope of passing because Sanskrit was very tough for him. The teacher was a hard taskmaster, anxious as I thought to force boys. Now, the Sanskrit teacher was a very hard taskmaster. Hard taskmaster means a person who gives you lot of homework and asks lot of questions and compels you to memorize. There was a sort of rivalry going on between the Sanskrit and the Persian teachers. Rivalry means enmity, competition. Now, like in our school, we have Hindi and Sanskrit. There is a competition between the Hindi students and the Sanskrit students. Similarly, in those days there was no Hindi but there was Persian. So some students opted for Persian, some students opted for Sanskrit. Now, the Sanskrit teacher was very lenient, very simple, very affectionate. The boys used to talk among themselves that Persian was very easy and the Persian teacher was very good and considerate to the students. So, students used to discuss among themselves that Persian was an easy subject, the teacher was very lenient, very considerate, and most of the students they used to opt for Persian. The easiness tempted me one day. I sat in the Persian class. The Persian was easy. The easiness of this subject tempted Gandhi to sit in the Persian class. Means that day he did not attend the Sanskrit class, rather he went to the Persian class. The Sanskrit teacher was grieved. When the Sanskrit teacher came to know that Gandhi has attended the Persian class, he was very sad. He called me to his side and said, "How can you forget that you are son of a Vaishnava family, Vaishnava father?" So the Sanskrit teacher called Mahatma Gandhi. Then he was not known as Mahatma, he was only known as Gandhi Mohandas, to his side and told him that how can you forget that he belonged to a Vaishnava family. Now Vaishnava means those persons, those caste which do some business. So he was coming from a Baniya family. Won't you learn the language of your own religion? So in those days, those who were Vaishnavas, they used to go for Sanskrit. If you have any difficulty, why not come to me? So the teacher was so affectionate. He said, "If you have any difficulty in Sanskrit, you can come and take my help. I want to teach you students Sanskrit to the best of my ability." So every teacher, he tries his best to teach the students to the best of his ability. How far he can teach, how far he can make the students understand. So he says, I want to teach the students to the best of my ability. As you proceed further, you will find it things of absorbing interest. As you go on studying Sanskrit, you will find many interesting things coming your way. You should not lose heart. Come and sit again in the Sanskrit class. Lose heart, you should not be disheartened. That Sanskrit is tough. You come again and sit in Sanskrit class. This kindness put me to shame. So Gandhi was having an idea that Sanskrit was tough and the Sanskrit teacher was a hard taskmaster. But when he saw that the Sanskrit teacher was so kind, so affectionate, he felt ashamed. I could not disregard my teacher's affection. He could not disregard his teacher's affection. He could not say anything about the affection which his Sanskrit teacher showed. Today, I cannot but thank with gratitude of Krishna Shankar Pandey. So, his Sanskrit teacher's name was Krishna Shankar Pandey. He said, I cannot but thank him for his gratitude for the little Sanskrit I had acquired that I learned then. Sekoji, why he was thankful? The little Sanskrit that he had learned during his career, he was thankful to his teacher. I should have found it difficult to take any interest in our sacred books. So if I had not learned Sanskrit, I could not have taken interest in the sacred religious books. Now, sacred books means what? The epics. Written all the epics, the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, they are the epics. They are all written in Sanskrit language. So because he had learned some of Sanskrit, he was able to read these epics. In fact, I deeply regret that I was not able to acquire a more thorough knowledge of the language. But he again repented that he was unable to acquire more knowledge of Sanskrit during his school career. I again request you students to like, share and subscribe my channel.